Hey folks, Mr. Dell here. We are looking at solving equations with multiple variables. Okay, so I'm going to pick a few questions from. This is from the CPM. Okay, so I'll tell you where I'm getting this from. These questions, CPM course 3, and this is specifically the parent guide for section 5112. So it's equations with multiple variables is what we're doing. We're solving equations with multiple variables, and this is 5.1.1. All right. So I'm going to pick a couple questions from that. I'm going to actually um, do number 4, number 5, and number 6. So I'm going to show you how to solve equations that have multiple variables. So number 4, we'll start with this one. It wants us to solve this equation for this specified variable for m. So I'm going to rewrite the equation and show you the process here. So it's 4n is equal to 3m minus 1. So what I need to do is I need to solve for m it wants. So we know our steps for solving equations, right? Solving equations, there's 3 steps. There's simplify, then there's isolate variable term, that's an R and an M there. And then the last one is to divide by the coefficient, right, of that variable term. So those are if you follow those steps, you're going to solve most equations, right? So I'm going to do those same steps, but in this case, even though I have multiple variables, I can still follow these steps. So the process, remember, first of all, simplify, but simplify really means that combine like terms, distribute a property, but I don't have any of that to do. So I go right to step 2. Step 2 is isolate the variable term. So the variable term is the term that has the variable that I'm looking for. Right now, it's this 3m. So this 3m is the variable term, right? I want to get that alone. That's my first step, to get that by itself. So how do I get it by itself is I got to get rid of the minus 1. So I'm going to add 1, do the inverse operation here. Minus 1 plus 1 is a 0. That's how I get rid of it. So I do the same thing on this side. So I have 4n plus 1. 4n plus 1. Well, I can't add a 1 and a 4n because that's a variable. This is a constant. Variable terms and constants can't add, so I just write the 4n plus 1 as is. Okay, I've isolated my variable term. Now divide by the coefficient. So the coefficient of the variable that I'm trying to get alone is m. So the coefficient is 3. And so I divide each one individually by 3. Right? So this one here then, so what we've got is I've got the m by itself now. And when I divide 4n divided by 3, it doesn't divide evenly, so I just write it as a fraction, 4 over 3n, right? It's my new coefficient, 4 over 3. 4 divided by 3 is 4 over 3. So that fraction now is my coefficient to the variable n, plus, and then I have over here 1/3. So we can switch this around if it makes more sense. Do you have it saying m equals? So m equals, you would say 4/3 n plus 1/3. Okay, so that right there is solving for m. Okay, all right. So let's do a couple more just to make sure we really got this. So number 5 says solve for a. Solve a in this equation. So it's 2a plus b equals c. So there's my equation. I need to solve for a. I want to get a alone. So same steps. Okay, I'm going to isolate the variable term. That means get that 2a by itself. So to get the 2a by itself, right, the variable term I'm looking for is the 2a, and I want it by itself. So I'm going to subtract b because it's a plus b. I got to subtract b because I want that to go away from this side. So I do it to this side as well. So I have 2a equals, well, b, a negative b and positive c can't be combined. So I'm going to write it alphabetically, negative b plus c, right? I can't combine them. I'm going to write it like that, negative b plus c. Then I have this 2 times a. It's the divide by the coefficient, right? So now I have the coefficient of 2, so I divide by 2, and I divide each one individually by 2. Yeah, you could divide the whole thing by 2, but I tend to just make sure that I have my individual terms. So that becomes A equals, well, what do I have here? I have negative B over 2. What I like to see that coefficient, so I want to remind you that negative in front of the B means negative 1. So negative 1 over 2 is negative 1 half. That's the new coefficient of B, negative 1 half B. Plus, same thing, C's got a coefficient, it's 1, right? So now 1 over 2 makes that, again, 1 half times C. So those are my new coefficients. So that would be one form of the answer. A is equal to negative 1 half B plus 1 half C. Last one I'll show you is 6, just to get a last and final one to kind of give another example. In this case, it says to, again, solve for A, but now my equation is B minus 2A equals C. So in this case, again, I want to get A alone. At the very end, I want to solve for A. So I'm going to isolate my variable term first. The variable term is the 2A. So I'm going to get rid of the B. So I'm going to subtract B again from both sides. This one's very similar to number 5. So we have that goes away. And I have, don't forget the minus in front. It's negative 2A is equal to, once again, I'll put it in alphabetical, negative B plus C. And I'm going to go ahead and already say this is a negative 1B plus 1C because I can see what's happening here. I've got to now divide by negative 2. That's my coefficient. Up here, I divided by positive 2. Here, I'm going to divide by negative 2. So that's just going to change the signs of each of the coefficients. So I now have my A is equal to, well, negative divided by a negative is positive. So that becomes positive 1 half B. And then a positive divided by a negative makes it a negative. So really what this does is it changes it to minus 1 half C. A negative 1 half, a plus negative 1 half is the same thing as minus. So that's one other version of writing that answer. All right, there you go.